Now, in the 1968 local elections, the Liverpool Conservatives won 62% of the vote and 78% of the seats on Liverpool City Council. By 1972, the party had held a majority on Liverpool Council for, wait for it, 85 of the previous 100 years.
But in 1983, they lost their last two MPs, and in 1998, they lost their final councillor. So the Conservatives have not won an electoral contest in the city since. A new book out today entitled Whatever Happened to Tory Liverpool takes an in-depth look at conservatism in the city. Well, we're delighted to be joined by the author, Dr. David Jeffrey, lecturer in British politics at the University of Liverpool. So come on then, for a city that used to return more Conservative MPs until the 1950s than any other city, what happened?
Well, there's a few things. The main issue is that the 1960s, the late 1960s, as you rightfully said, was a heyday for Liverpool conservatism. And that was largely because there was an unpopular Labour government and people voted with their feet. You know, Labour voters stayed at home, Conservative voters were fired up. And then we had the 4 disastrous years under Heath, who was very unpopular in parts of the country, and this led to the reverse happening. The Liverpool Conservatives stayed at home, Liverpool Labour voters were energised and came out, but what we would have expected to see was a reversal of this when the next Labour government came in. But we never saw that. And there were 2 reasons why. One is that the Local Government Act, 1972, led to all-out elections across Liverpool at a really, really bad time for the Conservatives. And so they went from quite a large party on the council to just 9 seats out of 99. So not a strong position at all. But the Liberals had just started to really work the city, and Liverpool became one of their strongholds because people saw them as a solid anti-Labour vote without having to reward the Conservatives, which would be seen as rewarding Heath. And from then on, the Conservatives were constantly playing catch-up. So there were times in the late 70s where they got 1 more votes than the Liberals, but because all of their votes were basically concentrated in the south of the city, that simply didn't translate into many seats. And then since then, it's been a kind of a slow decline until around 94 when they won their last councillor.
I mean, I wondered, David, because I think most people put the failure down to Margaret Thatcher. That seems to be the sort of most popular view. But what you're saying is it's more to do with Ted Heath than Margaret Thatcher. Michael Heseltine, it strikes me, I'm not from Liverpool, unlike Esther, but it strikes me that Michael Heseltine is a very popular Conservative politician in Liverpool and is credited with doing a lot to help regenerate the city centre. Why did that not translate into more support for the Conservative Party at the time?
Well, you're right at first about people thinking it's down to Margaret Thatcher. I mean, that's the reason why I started this project as a PhD student, was because it just the popular narrative didn't match up with the electoral facts on the ground. One of the reasons why I think Michael Heseltine wasn't able to kind of spearhead some sort of resurgence or kind of get the benefit of the doubt for the Conservatives was that people were willing to see him as separate from the government, partly because he positioned himself like that. You know, he put himself forward as a counterweight to Thatcher during those years, but also because some of the benefits of the economic regeneration were massively concentrated in certain areas. So average Joe in the street wouldn't feel it. Their areas look pretty much the same before and after Heseltine. So although he gets a lot of credit, rightly, for what he did around the Albert Dock area, most of the city didn't really see any benefits from what he did. And those benefits that did accrue were not long lasting.